Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Infinite Crypto Cruisers. Tuesday morning, folks. Tuesday traders. And man, there is a lot to talk about today. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of live trades. The market is pretty uncertain. Oh my goodness, dog. Sorry, guys. Let me get situated here. We got a dog that wants to fall asleep. Come on, go to bed. Anyways, I welcome all of you. Glad you are here today. Once again, I think today's going to be a little bit short. I keep saying that, but one of these days it's actually going to be true. Come on, you guys. Can you make any more noise? Oh, my goodness, guys. I told you I was a couple animals short of a zoo. Now it's official. It just is a zoo. And yeah, anyways. So this morning, I was watching the markets. I was listening in on a couple of people that I have a lot of respect for. And I really just think that we're probably in for some more pain. I hate to be the guy, the doom and gloom guy. Don't get me wrong. Long term. Oh, come on. Doom and gloom guy. But, you know, long term, I'm not. What are you whining about? Long term, I am super excited for the future. And I think, you know, really when it comes down to it, that the more pain there is now, the more discomfort, the more people that get shaken out of the markets, the better it is going to be for us when things turn around. And I'm still of the mindset that, oh my gosh. Oh, seriously. I need an assistant. Come on, you guys. This is ridiculous, man. Talk about so unprofessional. This little black cat of mine here, we named him Rambo. He likes to climb up my leg, and that is not fun, buddy. That's not fun. Anyways, man, part of the reason that I think today's going to be short is just because it is just absolutely, you know, crazy around here. Sometimes with animals, they don't cooperate. Most of the time, they're pretty good. When I'm doing my stream the other day, you know, just like everybody fell asleep, and it was almost like there wasn't any animals here. And then right now, it's like absolutely pandemonium around here. Hope you guys are all doing awesome in the chat. And, you know, I've got this new mic too. So I figure this new mic is probably picking up every single noise. Like I've got a dog that's deciding to whine and cry. And I'm figuring, I don't know if you guys can hear every whimper or not, but where are you? Seriously, this is like extra embarrassing. I figure people are probably leaving the show faster than they're coming in on a day like today. So let's get over here and see if I can talk louder than the dog can whimper. And we'll go into the markets a little bit. We can see here that over the last, you know, 1 hour, Bitcoin is down less than 1%. Over the course of the last 24 hours, it's basically, you know, pretty much break even. But, you know, the reason that I'm still a little bit on the bearish side, if you will, is I just think that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I think that there's going to be, I still just, you know, think that there's going to be some downside. And it's not just all, you know, random emotions. Will you knock it off? Hey, quit. Go to sleep. Yesterday, this little guy was like so good. He was sound asleep in my arms for the whole live stream. Now he wants to whimper. I got a cat meowing in the background. What? What? Yeah, I love you too. Ah, and there goes the cat again. Are you kidding me here, guys? Seriously. What do you want? I put you down, and all you do is whimper. I pick you up, and all you do is whimper. What are you doing, huh? What do you want, buddy? I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's like the most frustrating thing in the world. Like when you have a baby crying and you feed them, you change their diaper, you burp them, you do everything that you can do, and they just still keep crying. Yeah, go play, go do something. I swear to goodness, guys, you don't know how hard it is to keep your composure when this kind of stuff is going on, and you're trying to actually formulate intelligent thoughts and present them to you guys, and it's near impossible with what is going on in here today. I told my wife I was almost going to cancel today's live stream because I had a bad feeling about it. And the sponsor that's coming on board is actually not going to be here. We're not going to be promoting them. We're not going to be talking about them today. It's not until next week. And I wasn't planning on placing any live trades today. So I seriously considered canceling the stream, but I didn't really have that good of a reason to cancel the stream. Just, had a weird feeling about it. And then, like I say, this is something that I'm going to have to address. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to need an assistant. I'm going to have to do something to be able to, handle everything that's going on. Trying to do it by myself is obviously, not working. So Bitcoin is at 78, and I guess I'm in a holding pattern. I'm not necessarily so bearish that I don't think that, I'm not sitting here telling you guys that we're going to go see, $65,000 Bitcoin anytime soon. I'm just not so sure that we're going to bounce up and see, $100,000 Bitcoin, first either. And so it's not, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not telling you guys that the market's going to go up. I'm not telling you that it's going to go down. From the people that I'm listening to, I listened to a little bit of Sam Price, Crypto Lifer this morning. Everything that we're looking at is more bearish than bullish as of right now. But that can flip, relatively quickly. This 78,364 is right on the verge of the support and resistance. If we can get above 78.5 and really maintain above 78.5, then there is some potential for some upside. If we can't get above 78.5, then I think that we are going to go down to around 77, and then we will kind of see from there. But one of the things that I was going to mention today, guys, is that today is a great day to get yourself prepared and get ready for whatever is coming. To keep your eye on the markets and to try to get some powders, get some dry powder on the sidelines, get some money into your accounts so that if it does go one way or the other, we have the ability to take advantage of the situation. Now, I will say for the Varnell trader system, there are some setups that I'm liking, but unfortunately, they are not as sweet as they were a couple of days ago. So I don't know if anybody in the chat took advantage of a couple of days ago. I unfortunately was not in a position to take advantage of this the way that I would like to be. And that's one of the reasons that I'm telling you guys, highly suggesting that you get some money in your accounts and that you're actually prepared for these moments, because there was moments a couple of days ago that were spectacular opportunities. And so one of them here on my favorite token, I never in a million years thought that we were going to see 15 cent. I didn't think we were going to see 15 cent Polygon. I really didn't. And so, I didn't have any money in my account. A couple of the positions that I had in play that I was showing you guys last week did end up getting liquidated because I didn't have my ladders in the way that I wanted to. I kind of went in a little bit deeper because I thought we were closer to the bottom. So instead of having, you know, 25, 50, you know, $100 into these trades, I had 360 into one trade and $250 into another. And unfortunately, you know, that all got liquidated. I got liquidated for about $700 worth of trades a couple of days ago when the market really, you know, went bad on us. And the worst part about it is, you know, when I talk about do as I say, not as I do, is that I didn't even have, you know, money laying around. I wasn't prepared. I was busy. I was with family. I didn't have money in my accounts, and I didn't get any trades in while this stuff was bottomed out, because I would have already made most of my money back. Oh my gosh. I would have already made most of my money back had I been prepared. And so you can see here, you know, 15.4 cents on Polygon. Now, the trouble with that is I still think that 17.53 where we're at is an incredible spot to place a long, that even if we have some more downward momentum, it's not going to be impossible to keep these trades in play. But I'm a little bit more nervous about it than I was a week or two ago, because if this stuff can go all the way down to 15.4, then, you know, if Bitcoin gets crushed off all the way back into the 60s, which is not impossible, now I'm not so sure that we can't see, you know, a 12, 13 cent, Polygon potentially. And, you know, from 17 back to 12 or 13 is a pretty significant drop. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of hanging out in a waiting pattern and not necessarily going to town on things here, because I want to see kind of what direction we're going in. But I would have to say, if I had to place some trades today, I'm still, even though I'm of the opinion that we might see some more pain in the market, I still like the upside potential much more than I'm worried about the downside potential. And the reason I say that is these things are definitely, what is your deal? These things are definitely, in my opinion, you know, there's so much more room for it to go up than there is for it to go down at this point, especially for some of the tokens that haven't had the massive upswing. So I noticed that, you know, Dave is talking about, took a long on XRP at 169. And so that was probably, you know, a great play, you know. But at the same time, Ripple is also one of those tokens that we've been talking about where, you know, it came from a 30, 40, 50 cent token back a few months ago. So even at, you know, $1.69, it's 3x, you know, kind of where it bottomed out at during the market. Where if you look at Polygon Matic at 15 cents here, if we go out to, you know, this chart, you can see where this is basically the lowest that it has been for the whole shebang here. And this is the wrong Polygon. I don't like this one because it doesn't show the full chart. If we just go to regular Polygon Matic, you know, and I think I've shown you guys this before, but this is the max chart. This goes all the way back out to the beginning of Polygon when it was, you know, all the way, like right here, you can see on May 1st of 2019, you could have bought Polygon at 004. So crazy to me, guys. This is the kind of stuff that where legends are made. You know, there was a private sale for Polygon. There was people that got in at 004. I'm just kind of curious. I got to do this for myself. Pull up my calculator, and I'm just curious that had you bought $1,000 worth of Polygon at 004, that would have got you 250,000 tokens So $1,000 would have got you 250,000 tokens, and then it went up to an all-time high of about $3. So you would have turned $1,000 into $750,000, and that's one of the reasons that we hang out in this crazy crypto space, is because Polygon is by far not the last token that's going to do some crazy numbers. But, you know, once again, at 17.34 here, if you take 0.1734 times 10%, that's 0.1734. So now if we subtract that from 0.1734, it takes us all the way down to 15.6. So you can see that one ladder, if you went and placed a long right now here at 10x leverage on Polygon at 17.34, that one ladder would get you down to, you know, 15.6, which is a little bit higher than where we were at here. But if you then subtract 10% of 15.6 is another 0.156. So we take minus 0.0156. It takes us all the way down to about 14, 0.156 minus 0.0156 takes us down to 14, just barely over 14 cents. And, you know, once again, I'm not convinced at this point that Polygon can't dip below 14, but I sure don't think if it does, it's not going down any lower than 14 by much. Like, this is not going back to a 6, 7, 8, 9 cent token, in my opinion. I think that we have to be very, very close to the bottom of the market. I also very much believe that, you know, the elite, the powers that be that want to shake us out, that want to get us to let go of our bags, they got to be running out of steam. I mean, they can only take this stuff so low. They can only run it into the ground so far. Like, at some point in time, if they run it down so badly, then they're not going to be able to create the exuberance back on the way up. I mean, part of what these elite need is they need retail to get excited about crypto again as it starts to go back up. And at some point in time, if they just slaughter everybody too badly, there's not going to be anybody left to come back in and run these things back up when the market starts to show signs of positivity and improvement. So on that note, you know, it's really hard for me to say what I would do today. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to wait, because if I'm right and Bitcoin does have a little bit more pain, if they give us another shakeout and they get this Bitcoin down to, you know, 65 to 72,000, somewhere in that range, we'll see some pain in the altcoins. And I don't want to deploy capital right now and have to, you know, and then have to just ladder to save my positions. At the same time, you know, there's no perfect answer, because I don't want Polygon to go back up to 20 on me either. You know, I'll go over, like, I'm transparent. I'll show you guys here on this. Like, if you go back to my trade history here, so so these are where my positions got liquidated at. You can see this Polygon got liquidated at 0.745, like just about right where it was. And that's because if we go down a little ways, my Polygon trade, I got into Polygon at 20.25 here. And I thought that that was a pretty amazing buy. You know, I showed you guys on the charts how 20 cents was about as low as it had gone during the whole bear market. That's one of the things about crypto that drives me crazy a little bit. For those of you that have been around for a few years now, when Bitcoin was down at 17, 18, 20,000, you know, a year, 2 years ago, Polygon didn't go this low. So it just drives me crazy how Bitcoin is still at $78,000. Like, when you think about that, it was down as low as 17 grand. Call it 20 for even math, and call it 80 right now. So it's Bitcoin is still 4x what it was at the bottom of the market during the last bear market, yet the altcoins are lower than they were when Bitcoin was 17, 18, 20,000. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Logically speaking, it doesn't make any sense at all. And I know that we're going to have a comeback. This is not the end for, crypto in 2025. I would be willing to, just put everything, my whole reputation, everything that I own at risk, that we are going to have some massive upside potential, some good things that happen in the market in 2025. So, once again, it's like a very mixed emotion. There's a part of me that would rather go ahead and get a small trade in at 1734, even if it was only 25 or 50 bucks. And then if I have to ladder in at 15 cents and then ladder in at 14 cents and save the trade with, a little bit of a backup with some ladders, that to me would be more fun or more enjoyable, even though I wouldn't love watching it fall down. That would be better. Well, that was weird. Can you guys hear me again? All of a sudden, everything went black, and I still don't have my screen share here. It doesn't look like. Let me try this again. Get back on here and add this to the stage. There we go. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that personally, I don't mind a little bit more downside, and that I would personally like to get some trades put in the near future at these prices, because there's some potential that we're not going to see Polygon Matic back at 15. There's some potential that we have bottomed out, and that all of a sudden, when this thing turns around and heads the other direction, Polygon's going to be 22 cents, 25 cents, 30 cents very, very quickly. If you just go back here in this chart, if we look at the 1 month chart here for Polygon, you can see that this was all the way up here at 22 cents just back on March 27th. And if you go back even just slightly further, it was all the way up at 24 going on 25 cents just on March 26th. So it can reverse and go back up that high just as fast. And I don't want to miss out on that move, because from 17, 18 cents back to 25, that's a 50% move with 10x leverage. That makes a 500%. So if I've got a $100 trade in here on Polygon at 17.34 and it goes back up to 25 cents, I've turned my 100 into 500, and now I'm in a position to ride this thing all the way back up to $1, $2, $3 as things continue to go the way that I believe we are going to see them go as we get further and further along here in this market. And so once again, that's just my 2 cents. No, not financial advice. You guys have to, do what you're going to do. If there's anybody out there that's talking about, wanting to short the market because they still think that we are in for some pain, then absolutely, I would not hesitate to do a little bit of shorting too. If I was really, convinced. And, the other thing too, is if I was doing some shorting, I probably wouldn't do a bunch of backup trades. So I'm not going to short this stuff and then also back it up with ladders. So I'm just going to short it. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to lose my money, or I'm going to put in, a quick stop loss. And so the other thing that I would mention, folks, I know I'm just kind of rambling on today, but I really didn't have a definitive plan for what I wanted to talk about on this stream, because like I said, the markets are just so discombobulated. the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, the new sponsor that I wanted to share with you. We weren't quite ready to go with that yet. That'll be ready by next week, it looks like. And, you know, and then with the markets being this bad and having just gotten liquidated out of $700 worth of positions, I just wasn't really excited to go in and throw in any trades. So I'm just kind of talking. But one of the things that I want to mention is your subconscious mind is very powerful. So something that happened a few days ago when we did the Tuesday Trader live stream last week, somewhere around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't remember if it was right on the live stream or if it was afterwards, but I think it was about Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday of last week. It looked like I was going to lose my positions. Like I literally, my Polygon Matic trade, I had $360 in it. It was down $300 of that 360. Have a good day, son. It was down $300 of that 360. My H-bar trade, I had about $255 in. It was down around 200 of that. And I was just in a position where I didn't want to throw any more money at it, because when you're doing these ladders, in order to make a meaningful trade down near the liquidation price, I would have had to thrown, you know, probably $700 to $1,000 at the Matic trade, and somewhere in the ballpark of $500-600 at the H-bar trade to keep them both, you know, from getting liquidated. And then there was no guarantee that that would have worked. Like, you know, if I would have put in a trade at 17-ish, you know, when this thing dropped all the way down to 15.4, my Polygon trade might have still ended up getting liquidated. But long story short, I was looking at my trades and I was like, man, I really don't want to lose these trades. I hope that this thing reverses. And we ended up getting a little bit of a reversal. In fact, the H-bar trade went from $200 negative all the way to about $50-60 in profit. And the Polygon, which was underwater by $300, came back to where it was within like $50. And I was looking at my three trades. I had the Polygon trade, the H-bar trade, and the V-chain trade in place. And that between the three of them, they were basically almost 100% break even. And I tricked myself into thinking that we were ready to run and go to the upside. And rather than, there's like three things that I wish I would have done. And I'm mentioning them to you so that hopefully if this comes up, you guys have an opportunity to take advantage of these situations and maybe make better decisions than I made. So the first thing that came to my mind, and I think this was my subconscious mind, you know, the universe, the God in my mind talking to me, and I ignored it. And that was to just sell all of the positions. And part of the reason is I got overextended. Like I said, $360 into Polygon. And now if I want to back it up, I have to go all the way, you know, to a $600, $700, $800, $900 trade. If I would have just closed that trade out at a $60 loss, I would have had $300 that I could have laddered back in with. And I could have started a ladder at 17 and then gone down and done another ladder at 15. And I would have three of that 360 in play. I would have made up the $60 loss on the Polygon with the $60 win on the H-bar. And it would have been a similar situation that when H-bar came back, I could have gotten in it and at a better rate, like a $25, $50, $75, $100 first trade rather than having over $250 in it. So the number one mistake and the one thing that I think that I could have done differently was I could have closed out my trades when they came back up to break even after being 90%. Like 90% of the way to liquidation. I should have been thrilled that I was back to about even. I should have closed out my trades, regrouped, and reestablished them at lower amounts. Number two, the other thing that came to my mind, my subconscious mind, my God conscious, was I literally had this great big flashing sign in my head that said, short Bitcoin. So folks, you know, in the stock market, there's ways that you can hedge your bets. You know, there's what they call calls and puts. And one of the things that you can do, one of the things that I could have done and that I thought about doing and that I wish I would have done is I could have put in like a $100 to $150 short on Bitcoin when it was up at, $82,000 last week. I just could have put in $100 short. And when Bitcoin crashed all the way down to 77, 78, and my positions were getting liquidated, I would have made most of the money back on that Bitcoin short. So I could have hedged my bets. Now, if everything went bad, on a 10x leverage trade at 82,000, that gives you over $8,000. So that means Bitcoin would have had to have gone up to $90,000 in order for that Bitcoin short to get liquidated. And at that point, I wouldn't have cared, because when Bitcoin was at $90,000, I would have been in such massive, massive profit on these positions that I had in play that I would not have cared about the $100 or $150 that I lost on Bitcoin trade that got liquidated at $90,000. So that was the second thing. Both of those things hit me like a ton of bricks. And especially so, the first thing, I hated the idea of just selling totally out of the positions. And I don't necessarily know that that was the right move. It turned out it would have been the right move. But the main thing that I really regret is why didn't I risk $100, $200 worth of a trade shorting Bitcoin, which would have protected my downside? Like I say, if you've got some longs in play, like 10x leverage longs, and you're trying to keep them in play, a little Bitcoin short can go a long ways towards helping you if the market goes in the wrong direction. And once again, if it goes in the right direction, you really don't care about losing the Bitcoin short. Now, you guys can go do your own math and, and check it out for yourself. But, it wouldn't have been that hard, once again, to make a Bitcoin trade that basically paid the $700 that I lost, or even if it just paid, 300, 400, 500 of the 700 that I had in the longs, that would have been a beautiful situation. And so that's something that I'm going to listen to my gut. Listen. So the biggest thing that I'm saying here is listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. When something is gnawing at you and, telling you that something bad is coming, don't ignore it. I don't know how we know ahead of time. I don't know where these thoughts come from. I have my ideas. I have my opinions on it, but I really can't. I don't know. I can't prove it, but I do know that when I get these kind of weird thoughts, or these, kind of like something's going to happen and you should do this to protect yourself, that more often than not, like probably 80 or 90% of the time, it happens. Does it happen every single time? No, but it happens way more often than it doesn't. And so I feel kind of silly sitting here today telling you guys that I got liquidated on those $700 worth of trades, because I didn't have to. I was down 90% on those trades, and then they did come back. We got a little bit of a pump in the market. They came back to where I could have closed them out for break even or a teeny tiny win or loss. And then I had an opportunity. I definitely could have shorted. I could have put in a short on Bitcoin, and not been anywhere near as devastated by this dip. And then what I would have done is, when my positions got liquidated, I would have sold off the Bitcoin position, put the $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 back in my pocket, and then I would have placed trades. So I would have had the money to place this trade on Polygon, at 15.4. And, once again, guys, at 15.4 cents, 10 times or 10% of 15.4 is 1.5. So we would have been up to a little over 17 with it. So if we got in on the Polygon at 15.4, it's gone up 10%. Plus the 10x leverage means we would be up 100% on that trade, and we would have a trade in at 15.4. So, basically the moral of the story is, be smarter than Brad. like, once again, at the same time, it's funny. We were talking yesterday. If you didn't watch yesterday's show, it was kind of an emotional show, you know, talking about not beating yourself up. And I'm not beating myself up, but at the same time, it's kind of important to learn from these lessons. You know, that $700 was valuable. That could do a lot of life. And had those trades stayed in play, or if I had even 3 or 4 or 500 of that still into these trades, well, that 3, 4, 500 right now would be back up to, you know, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. If you look at the other token, H bar, you'd take a peek at H bar, which was the other trade that I got in. I mean, look at this thing. You can see here for the last 24 hours, it's up 6.7%. And overall, if we go and look at its last, last week here, oh, come on, mouse. So we can see here, this thing went all the way down to 12.67 cents. But even if we would have got in it back here, you know, at 14 cents, don't do it, cat. At 14 cents, once again, from 14 back up to 15.5 is over 10%. So there's a lot of ways that I could have saved these trades or put things into place to where I didn't just get totally liquidated and, you know, be in a position where I'm sitting here today, you know, kind of giving you guys a lesson on what not to do. And so, you know, what are my recommendations? See, once again, even while we're talking here, look at this. You know, this is why I just don't think, I think Bitcoin is faking us out. It's given us a little bit of hope, but here we are, boom, back down to, you know, 777, 4,000. It's dropped almost $1,000 just since we've been on the stream here. And that's why I'm still very, very nervous about going real long, unless it's with small amounts of money, guys. But once again, you guys got to do your own due diligence, do your own work. I'm going to wrap this stream up. I know it wasn't as good as normal, but the last thing that I'm going to say is look at the tokens that you want to long or short, and then figure out, you know, where they are compared to their all-time lows. And then, you know, make your move. So there's still a lot of tokens out here that are, you know, like bottomed out. Like, so if you go look at Polkadot, this is one that I love to long, and I love to long it. And look at this thing, $3.53. If we go out here to the max chart, I've shown this to you before, but you can't find a spot here. If we go right here, October, it was 375. If we do the historical data, I think it went down into the 360s, but it was literally, look at this. This was October 15th of 2023. And I want to show you, if we go here to this first dip pump, this was November 11th. It was all the way back up to 555. So here we are again, once again, like October 10th-ish. It's down at $3 and something cents, 350, 360, 370. And then all just boom. In just a couple of weeks, on November 11th, it's all the way back up to 555. If we go out here to December, it was up to $8. But you cannot find a spot on the chart unless you go way, 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 way back here until, you know, this is 2020, where this thing has been $3.55. So that doesn't mean that it can't go lower. But remember, if you go put a trade in at Polkadot, with 10x leverage, you get a 35-cent cushion. So you be all the way down to about $3.15. And then if you ladder in at 315, that gives you another 30 cents. That takes you all the way down with, you know, one buy-in and a couple of ladders takes you all the way down to $2.80 Polkadot. And so these are the tokens that I'm looking at making moves with. If I'm going to make a move, it's going to be with a token like Polkadot. It's going to be with a token like Matic. It's going to be with tokens that are at the very bottom of where they've been at during this cycle. Where on the flip side, you know, like Dave, I don't mind the XRP trade at all. I mean, you're already in the money significantly, you know, but once again, if we take a look at XRP and we do the same kind of thing here, you can see, guys, it wasn't that long ago that this was a 47, 48 cent token. If you go back to here, you know, we're talking, it was all the way down at 29 cents. Again, right here is better. So right here on June 20th of 2022, this was a 32-cent token. So during this bear market from 21 through now, this token has had some times where it's been down in the 30 cents range, 35 cents. Now, I don't know that Ripple, with all of the good news, with it winning the lawsuit, everything that's happening, that we got to worry about it going that low. But I would be much more worried about Bitcoin, say, losing 50% of its value and going back to 90 cents than I would be worried about Polkadot going from 358 back to $1.75. And I would definitely be, like, or, Polygon Matic going from 17 cents to 8.5 cents. So, with that, folks, I hope that you guys got a little bit of value out of today, even though I was pretty wishy-washy and really didn't give any solid direction. I do think there's some opportunities. I would be watching Bitcoin like a hawk. And I might even, like, I keep thinking to myself that maybe I'll do a little bit of a short on Bitcoin just as a way to create some extra income. Like, if I'm right and Bitcoin runs down to, 65 to 74,000, I can make a nice little chunk of dough on a short that I can then put into all of these altcoins that will have gotten smashed off and will be at some of their lows. Hey there, Rambo. Welcome to the show. Anyways, so with that, guys, I appreciate you all very much. There's not going to be a giveaway today, but starting next week, I think we're going to be able to do a giveaway on every single Trader Tuesday. So with that, thank you all for being here. Excited to see you tomorrow on the Microcap Gem live stream. With that, God bless and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye for now.